Well, he was my brother, first of all. But then I noticed he was getting mighty good.
Buddy Holly is a rock and roll legend. But what if there's more to his story than you know? Behind the fame, he faced untold struggles and hidden battles. What really drove him to make the choices that led to his untimely death? Stay tuned to discover the truth. Buddy Holly's rise to fame. Born Charles Hardin Holly on September the 7th, 1936, in Lubbock, Texas, Buddy Holly was destined for brilliance, but started from modest beginnings. Conservative and musically rich, Lubbock greatly impacted Holly's growth. Buddy, the younger of 4 children, grew up in a family that appreciated music. Devout Christians Lawrence Odell, L.O. Holly, and Ella Pauline Drake Holly lived in a house surrounded by gospel music and family sing-alongs. Music was a family business. Early musical preferences of Buddy were greatly influenced by the gospel and country music records his parents regularly played. Larry and Travis, his older brothers, also loved music and pushed Buddy's aptitude from an early age. The sounds of fiddle, guitar, and family harmonies permeated the Holly household. Early on, Buddy picked up the piano and guitar. His brother Larry, 4 years his senior, was always at his side during musical exploration. Though they were close, Larry and Buddy had tense times, particularly regarding Buddy's approach to his career. As Buddy's passion for music deepened, his relationship with Larry began to shift, adding personal tension to their once close bond. Larry was Buddy's first actual influence. He had musical aspirations of his own and regularly helped Buddy improve his early performances. But their different conceptions of fame and success would eventually strain their relationship. Buddy started performing with local bands in his teenage years, mostly referencing the country and bluegrass sounds that permeated Texas in the 1950s. Still in high school, he teamed up with friend Bob Montgomery to perform as Buddy and Bob at small venues and on local radio stations. Although Buddy's taste in rhythm and blues started to develop and he experimented with several genres, mixing ideas in a way ahead of his time, their music was essentially country. By 1955, Buddy's musical aspirations had clearly turned one way. After seeing Elvis Presley perform in Lubbock, Texas, Buddy was motivated to move from country music to rock and roll. This choice was not without difficulties, as many in the music business still had doubts about his new genre. Record companies lacked ideas for how to promote Buddy's original blend of R&B, rockabilly, and country music. Nevertheless, Buddy remained determined to carve his own path in the evolving music industry, a decision that would soon pay off in unexpected ways. Buddy started the Crickets in 1956, along with Nicky Sullivan on rhythm guitar, Joe B. Maudlin on bass, and Jerry Allison on drums. Early on, their performances did not garner great enthusiasm. Still clinging to country music, Lubbock and the larger Texas area found the Crickets' unique sound too different for some listeners. Buddy stayed clear in his vision despite the challenges. When producer Norman Petty in Clovis, New Mexico agreed to collaborate with Buddy following a string of turned-down demos, his tenacity paid off. Buddy Holly and the Crickets recorded That'll Be the Day under Petty's direction, which would transform everything released in 1957. That'll Be the Day shot up to the top of the Billboard Hot 100 list right away. With its catchy melody and energetic rhythm, the song captured the attitude of a generation and propelled Buddy Holly and the Crickets into stardom. The success of That'll Be the Day marked a turning point in Buddy's career, but the pressures of fame were only beginning to take their toll. Buddy Holly's inventiveness transcended his songwriting. He was also ahead in his recording techniques. At the time, his use of overdubbing, layering vocal and instrumental tracks separately, was revolutionary and helped shape modern music production methods. Moreover, his unique look, complete with a clean-cut appearance and horn-rimmed glasses, markedly contrasted with the more rebellious rock stars of the day, such as Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. Buddy's appeal was in his relatability, his boy-next-door image, and his understated manner. Still, Holly was limited by the reality of the 1950s music business, which was notorious for its exploitation of artists even as he became more well-known. Every element of an artist's career was under the control of record companies, and Buddy was no exception. Often stacked in favor of producers and executives, contracts left musicians like Buddy with less of a portion of the income. Still, Holly's imagination grew rather wild. Apart from That'll Be the Day, the Crickets produced a string of hits including Peggy Sue, Oh Boy, and Maybe Baby. Even as Buddy's career soared, personal tensions continued to mount, particularly within his family. Buddy's success not only impacted the American music scene, but also sent ripples across the world. His sound and technique captivated young musicians in the UK. The Beatles famously named Buddy Holly as one of their main inspirations. Years later, Paul McCartney bought the publishing rights to Buddy's catalog. But success brought difficulties as well. Buddy's rising fame began to sour his personal relationships, especially with his family. Buddy spent less time at home as his schedule grew more demanding, and the family began to feel financial strains. While the press adored Buddy Holly, he was regularly featured in teen magazines, radio interviews, and television appearances. His clean image made him a safe choice for mainstream audiences. Though just in his early 20s, Buddy had already come to represent a new era in music, one in which artists wrote their own songs, performed their own instruments, and exercised creative control over their work. The rapid rise of Buddy's fame, however, brought its own set of challenges, both personally and professionally. The ascent of Buddy Holly was almost explosive. In just a few short years, he had transformed from a country-loving Lubbock, Texas youngster to an international rock and roll icon. But as his star grew, so did the demands and tensions accompanying it, in his family as much as in his professional life. The world had no idea how sadly brief Buddy Holly's reign at the top would be. The Brothers' Perspective, a closer look at family dynamics. Older brother of Buddy, Larry Holly, was instrumental but sometimes underappreciated in the early career of the rising star. Deeply bonded by a love of music, the two brothers were like many older siblings, with Larry acting as both protector and mentor to Buddy. He advised Buddy and helped him shape his early performances, guiding him through the first phases of his musical path. Larry saw Buddy's potential even when he was young. He wanted to do all he could to see Buddy flourish, since he knew his younger brother possessed a unique gift that would take him great distances. Larry not only supported Buddy the most, but also actively oversaw some facets of his career prior to professional managers entering the scene. Larry was in charge of booking events, setting up gear, and promoting Buddy's talent when he first began touring. Lubbock, Texas. Strong bonds existed between the two brothers, and they frequently collaborated on songs polishing Buddy's sound prior to his notoriety. But as Buddy's success grew, so did the strain on their relationship, particularly regarding the direction of Buddy's career. Larry did, however, have a mixed impact on Buddy. Larry occasionally found himself annoyed with the direction his brother's career was heading as it started to soar. Larry preferred a more conservative approach, believing Buddy should stay true to his country roots, while Buddy wanted to explore new sounds and push the envelope of rock and roll. This disparity in artistic vision caused conflict between the two. Larry occasionally felt as though his counsel was being disregarded as Buddy's profile developed. Larry's protective demeanor also extended to Buddy's finances. Larry grew more worried about how young star Buddy's income was being handled as his career developed. The music business was infamous for mistreating musicians in the 1950s, and Larry worried that Buddy was not getting paid enough for his work. Both a sincere wish to see his brother succeed and a sense of obligation to shield him from the darker sides of the business motivated Larry's participation in Buddy's career. But as Larry tried to safeguard Buddy from financial pitfalls, their relationship was further tested by growing disagreements about the management of Buddy's career. The demands inside the Holly family grew along with Buddy's notoriety. Although the family had always encouraged Buddy's aspirations, the reality of his success started to show gaps in their once strong relationship. The Holly house was always struggling financially. Though Buddy was rapidly rising to be among the most famous rock and roll stars, the money did not flow as naturally as one would have hoped. Larry, in particular, was worried about the financial mismanagement Buddy's career seemed to be exhibiting. Early on in his career, Buddy signed agreements with management firms and record labels that strongly favored industry insiders, skewing his success. These agreements left Buddy with barely a portion of the income from his recordings and performances. Larry and Buddy got into furious arguments about how to handle his money and who should be in charge of his career from this point on. Larry, always the more wary and protective brother, thought Buddy was being taken advantage of. Buddy, always the creative spirit, was more preoccupied with his music than the business side of things. The widening gap in their perspectives on Buddy's career led to increasingly heated disputes, making it harder for the brothers to maintain their once close relationship. Tensions emerged from power struggles over creative control as well. Buddy's desire to take more control over his music grew as his popularity shot skyward. He wanted to write more of his own material, explore new recording techniques, and vary musical styles. But Larry and the other family members felt Buddy was moving too fast and that he should concentrate on what had already made him successful, his rockabilly background and neat appearance. These differences about the course of Buddy's career tore apart Buddy and his brother, since Larry wanted more say over Buddy's choices. All of this was driven by family jealousy and resentment. Though fascinating, Buddy's explosive climb to popularity left his siblings in a challenging position. Particularly, Larry battled the concept that his younger brother had accomplished what he had always wanted. Although Larry harbored personal musical aspirations, Buddy turned out to be the star. Larry was emotionally strained by this dynamic since he felt frustration at his own unmet expectations mixed with pride in the success of his brother. The combination of personal disappointment and pride in Buddy's achievements created a complicated emotional dynamic for Larry, one that would only deepen as Buddy's star continued to rise. From the outside world, Buddy Holly was the epitome of the American dream, a modest, industrious Texas lad who rose to be a rock and roll phenomenon. His public persona was absolutely spotless. From the wild, rebellious rock stars of the day, he was seen as a responsible, polite young man. Buddy's preppy look and signature horn-rimmed glasses helped to solidify his reputation as the boy next door, someone parents could trust their teenagers to idolize. But the truth about Buddy is different. Holly's life was considerably more complicated. Benevolent behind the scenes, Buddy was under a lot of pressure from the demands of celebrity as well as from the mounting family conflict. Larry, his closest friend, started to see changes in Buddy as his profile rose. As his demanding travel schedule kept Buddy far from home for extended periods of time, he grew more emotionally and physically detached. As the pressures of fame took their toll on Buddy, the distance between him and Larry only grew, making it difficult for the brothers to reconcile the changes in their relationship. Buddy's personal life suffered in tandem with the rigors of the music business. Although the public loved him, Buddy felt more and more isolated and confided in Larry about the demands of celebrity. Buddy had little time to celebrate his success from the constant traveling, recording, and media attention. The weight of his obligations started to compromise his mental and emotional health. The way Buddy's success was presented in the media added to the distance separating him and Larry. Record label and management worked meticulously to create Buddy's public persona as a neat, clean-cut role model for youth. But this picture failed to capture Buddy's own hardships. Larry objected to the way the business had molded his brother into something different from what Buddy was, because he felt the public did not really grasp the complexity of his life. As Buddy's public image became increasingly detached from his reality, Larry grew more frustrated with the industry's control over his brother, further complicating their relationship. Buddy's relationship with his family, especially with Larry, kept getting worse as his popularity rose. Once inseparable, the brothers were now separating, Larry feeling more and more excluded from Buddy's life. As fame wore on and the demands of the music business tested his relationship with people who had known him the longest, the public and private life of Buddy Holly started to differ more clearly. The dark truth, what was hidden from the public. Although Buddy Holly's career was explosive, the public hardly ever saw a web of professional conflicts and exploitation underlying it. Holly struggled with his record companies and management right away. Young and rather inexperienced, he signed agreements that, looking back, clearly favored him less. Like many 1950s musicians, Holly was limited by contracts that gave record companies and producers undue influence and income. Working with Norman Petty, who turned into his manager and producer, this problem was aggravated. Petty's participation first helped Holly document some of his best hits, but over time, their relationship deteriorated. Among the main disputes emerged with his record company, Coral Records. Confusion over who owned what resulted from Holly signing separate contracts for his solo work and his work with the Crickets. Though common at the time, this division finally caused conflicts about royalties. Despite his popularity, Buddy Holly saw only a small portion of the money his hits brought in. Though he was well known, the label kept a sizable portion of his earnings, limiting his financial situation. These disputes only deepened Holly's frustration with the music industry as he struggled to balance his artistic ambitions with the business's financial demands. Under Petty's care, Holly's financial situation got worse. Petty, who oversaw Buddy's business and artistic sides of his career, was accused of not paying royalties. When Petty declined to provide clear accounting records, Buddy became dubious. Holly had sacked Petty by the end of 1958, which set off a legal fight over his income. Holly was left battling to recover the royalties due to him, and this process continued until his death. Holly was demoralized with the music business more and more because of the weight of his struggle for financial freedom. Buddy Holly's contempt of the business grew as the financial and legal conflicts got more intense. Both the commercial and creative limitations imposed on him felt stifling. Though Holly was eager to broaden his musical horizons, experimenting with orchestration, new recording techniques, and several genres, the business had typecast him as a clean-cut rockabilly artist. Holly was demoralized when his taste for artistic control collided with the industry's preference for formulaic hits. Even with his success, Holly felt imprisoned in a system that exploited his ability for little in return. This conflict between artistic vision and business constraints became a defining struggle in Holly's career, leaving him increasingly alienated from the industry that made him a star. Apart from professional conflicts, Buddy Holly struggled personally, mostly in secret from the public. Though he presented himself as a healthy, laid-back young star, Holly struggled with anxiety, stress, and the emotional toil of juggling celebrity with his personal life. Unlike many other rock stars of Buddy Holly's day, there are no verified records of drug use in his life. Some, however, believe that the demands of celebrity and the stress of his career conflicts could have caused periods of anxiety and depression. Though these difficulties were kept secret, Holly most likely suffered with mental health issues, as an artist always on the road and battling financial and personal setbacks does. While Holly maintained his clean-cut image, the emotional strain of his career likely took a significant toll on his mental health, contributing to his growing isolation. Periods of great stress could have resulted from Buddy's disappointment with the business and his damaged personal relationships. The pressure to keep his public image while fighting behind-the-scenes obstacles could have aggravated isolation. Holly never openly admitted to having anxiety or depression, but his close friends and relatives observed that this happy public image covered more subdued emotional conflicts and frustrations. Buddy wed Maria Elena Santiago in 1958, a decision that generated mixed feelings. Although Maria Ellen brought stability into Holly's life, their relationship was not without difficulties. Holly's rigorous travel schedule meant extended periods of distance from his wife, which taxed their marriage. His family also did not totally approve of the marriage, particularly in his pursuits of financial freedom. Some Holly family members, including Larry, felt Maria Ellen was guiding Buddy's choices. In the last moments of his life, Holly suffered from both personal and professional stress that combined to be taxing. These tensions further complicated Holly's life as he struggled to balance his career with his personal relationships, leading to increased emotional strain. On February 3, 1959, a day remembered as the day the music died, Buddy Holly's career abruptly and tragically came to an end. Although the official account of the plane crash is well known, there are darker rumors and accusations surrounding the circumstances of his death. Holly booked a private plane to fly across the frigid Midwest winter between tour stops that fatal night in 1959. He died along with Ritchie Valens and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson when the jet crashed soon after takeoff. Official accounts attribute pilot error and bad weather as the causes, but conspiracy theories have lately surfaced suggesting either negligence or foul play. Among others, Holly's brother Larry questioned the choices taken leading to the crash. Why had Buddy decided to fly through potentially hazardous weather? Some say the plane was not ready for the winter storm, and claims of carelessness surround the flight company that planned the trip. Larry also believed that the hurry to satisfy strict travel schedules had a part in the sad choice to fly that evening. These lingering questions have added complexity to Holly's death, with some, including Larry, believing that the pressures of fame and a grueling schedule played a role in the fatal decision to take the flight. Later years saw Larry Holly complaining about the unresolved crash-related problems. He thought his brother's financial and legal conflicts, as well as the demands of the tour schedule, drove him into risky decisions. For Larry, the crash represented not only a sad event, but also the result of the exploitation and demands Buddy had been under all through his career. Legacy and reappraisal: how the truth changes Buddy Holly's image. The disclosures from Buddy Holly's brother, Larry, have fundamentally changed public opinion of the beloved rock and roll star. Larry's sharing of his side of the story illuminated facets of Buddy's life that had hitherto stayed secret. The public went into shock when Larry Holly's remarks on Buddy's personal and professional challenges emerged. Many of the people who had grown up loving Buddy as a free-spirited, forward-looking rock star were ignorant of the darker side of his life. Media sources started to reevaluate Buddy's narrative, concentrating on his financial difficulties, the events surrounding his death, and the exploitation he suffered from the music business. Although the death of Buddy's plane crash had long been mourned, Larry's disclosures provided fresh perspective on the possible influences on his choice to book the fatal flight that day. These revelations painted a more complex picture of Holly, one where the pressures of fame, financial exploitation, and personal struggles weighed heavily on his life decisions. Buddy Holly's fans responded with a mixture of sympathy and gloom. Holly had been seen for decades as a symbol of young purity, a straightforward musician who had stayed unharmed by the darker side of the rock and roll scene. Many saw him humanize himself, knowing he had gone through such major personal and professional challenges. not only as a performer, but also as a person who had gone through the challenges of celebrity and kept producing innovative music. Fans showed fresh respect for Buddy. The public was compelled by Larry Holly's disclosures to reconsider Buddy Holly's legacy in view of the darker realities long buried. Though Buddy had challenges, his contributions to music stayed revolutionary. Unlike other rock musicians of his day, he pioneered in writing and producing his own songs. The demands he encountered, especially from the music business, just highlight his successes. Knowing the exploitation Buddy went through emphasizes how amazing his musical production really was. Knowing that Buddy was fighting battles behind the scenes lends still another degree of respect for his efforts. His ability to push boundaries musically, even under such pressure, stands as a testament to his talent and determination, making his achievements even more remarkable. The disclosures on Buddy's hardships have spurred more research on music history. The narrative of Buddy is now seen in light of how the 1950s music business mistreated young musicians. Music critics and historians have begun to discover how Buddy's experiences mirror more general industry systemic problems, ones that have endured for decades. Buddy's narrative reminds artists of a warning. It shows how easily those in authority can take advantage of even the most brilliant stars. Once fully told, Buddy Holly's narrative puts him in a larger tradition of musicians who battled the demands of celebrity and the darker side of the business. The career of Buddy Holly has unsettled parallels with other great musicians, including Elvis Presley and Kurt Cobain. Like Buddy, Elvis was under management by a businessman named Colonel Tom Parker, who many feel took advantage of him for financial benefit. Likewise, Nirvana's frontman, Kurt Cobain, battled the demands of fame and exploitation, which finally brought about his sad death. Both times, these musicians, including Buddy, battled to keep control over their financial and creative life. These comparisons underline how, despite being separated by decades, artists like Holly, Presley, and Cobain all struggled with similar issues of exploitation and the pressures of fame. Especially in the realm of rock and roll, fame has always been a two-edged blade. Although it brings riches and respect, it also puts great pressure on artists to keep up a public image, follow industry standards, and always perform. For Buddy Holly, this meant battling privately related to his finances, his personal life, and his mounting disenchantment with the music business, while yet grappling with an image designed for him. Being famous sometimes isolates people, and for someone like Buddy, who was just starting to discover his potential, it became a weight. This reflects the challenges of many well-known people caught between public expectation and personal fulfillment. For the business as a whole, as well as for upcoming musicians, Buddy Holly's experience provides a number of insightful teachings. The need of artists keeping control over their financial and creative rights is among the most important teachings. Had Buddy been allowed the freedom to run his own career, free from unfair contracts, his life might have been different. His narrative emphasizes the need for improved support systems for artists, particularly young ones pushed into the public before they have had the opportunity to completely grasp the complexity of fame. When one considers these darker realities, Buddy Holly's legacy reminds us of the difficulties associated with success and the necessity of better protections for those who produce the songs we enjoy. The impact of family on Buddy Holly's career and life. In Buddy Holly's early career years, Larry Holly, his older brother, was a constant presence. The Holly family, musically inclined while growing up in Lubbock, Texas, found Larry playing an instrumental role in Buddy's early musical development. From the moment Buddy picked up his first guitar, Larry was there to guide and support him, recognizing the immense talent of his younger brother long before anyone else did. Larry offered emotional support as Buddy navigated the challenges of adolescence and rising fame. Larry also played a significant role in Buddy's early career, offering guidance and even managing some of his business affairs. As Buddy started performing locally, Larry helped book small venues across Texas and often served as his roadie, assisting with equipment and logistics. Beyond logistical support, Larry was a sounding board for Buddy's creative ideas. Even when he disagreed with some of Buddy's decisions, Larry remained a steady emotional anchor during a time when the pressures of fame could have easily overwhelmed his younger brother. Despite their close relationship, the brothers faced challenges as Buddy's career gained momentum. Larry, who had envisioned his brother following a more traditional path, often clashed with Buddy over his career decisions. Larry's more conservative approach contrasted with Buddy's desire to push boundaries and experiment with his music. These differences in outlook caused friction, particularly as Buddy began working more closely with his manager and producer, Norman Petty. As Buddy's ambitions grew, the tension between the brothers reflected their diverging visions for his career, creating an emotional rift. Larry's protective instincts sometimes led to disagreements over the people surrounding Buddy. He was skeptical of certain business deals and worried that record labels and producers were taking advantage of his brother's talent. Buddy, eager to seize new opportunities, often dismissed Larry's concerns, leading to further strain in their relationship. As Buddy made more decisions independently, Larry felt increasingly sidelined. The brothers' relationship became even more strained during Buddy's later years. Larry took issue with Buddy's marriage to Maria Elena Santiago and his decision to move to New York City, feeling that these choices distanced Buddy from his family and roots. By the time Buddy tragically passed away in 1959, the divide between them remained unresolved. The unresolved conflict added to Larry's grief, leaving him in a deep sense of regret that would linger for years. Following Buddy Holly's death in the plane crash that also took the lives of Ritchie Valens and J.P. the Big Bopper, Larry and the rest of the family took on the responsibility of preserving Buddy's legacy. Public grief was widespread, and Buddy's music became even more beloved in the years after his death. Larry, along with his family, worked tirelessly to ensure that Buddy's legacy was respected and that his contributions to rock and roll were never forgotten. Larry and the Holly family played an active role in keeping Buddy's music alive for future generations. They organized memorial events, negotiated with record companies to reissue his songs, and worked to maintain public interest in Buddy's work. Despite their efforts, the commercial exploitation of Buddy's music continued to frustrate the family. While Larry and his family succeeded in honoring Buddy's artistic contributions, they often struggled with the industry's ongoing misuse of his work. After Buddy's death, legal disputes over the ownership of his music emerged, creating further challenges. The Holly family believed they should have had more control over Buddy's songs and royalties, but the contracts Buddy had signed with Norman Petty complicated matters. The family fought a series of legal battles to regain control of Buddy's music and ensure they received the financial compensation they felt was owed to them. Larry, driven by a desire to both protect Buddy's legacy and seek justice for the financial exploitation Buddy endured during his lifetime, was at the forefront of these legal efforts. The disputes over Buddy's estate and music rights became a drawn-out and difficult struggle. Though the family made some progress in securing royalties, the legal process was slow and arduous. Larry's role as the guardian of his brother's legacy remained central to his life as the fight over Buddy's music continued for decades. For Larry Holly, the legal and financial battles were just one part of a larger mission to ensure Buddy's story was told in full. He believed that the public image of Buddy had been overly sanitized with the real challenges Buddy faced, both personally and professionally, overshadowed by his status as a rock and roll legend. Larry sought to correct this narrative and reveal the full complexity of his brother's life. Larry's desire to tell the unvarnished truth about Buddy's stemmed from a deeper respect for the man behind the music and a need to set the record straight. Larry often spoke openly about the exploitation Buddy faced, the tensions within their family, and the circumstances surrounding Buddy's death. He raised questions about the decisions that led to the fatal plane crash and the pressures that Buddy was under at the time. Larry's pursuit of the truth wasn't just about exposing the darker aspects of Buddy's life, but about ensuring that Buddy's story was told honestly and completely. Decades after Buddy's death, Larry continued his efforts to honor his brother's legacy, ensuring that future generations understood the complexity of Buddy Holly's life and career. Through his work, Larry solidified his role as the protector of Buddy's memory, ensuring that the world remembered Buddy Holly not just as a rock and roll icon, but as the multifaceted individual he truly was. Buddy Holly's legacy lives on, but his journey was more complex than the world knew. Thanks for watching, and remember, every legend has its untold stories, and Buddy's reminds us of the price of true greatness. Click the subscription button for more legendary truths.